Simon from simonwoods.com. I'm in Chilean Cabernet mode today. I've got 5 of them and they're all from the same region, Maipo. Now, is Maipo the best region for Cabernet Sauvignon in Chile? It's certainly one of the candidates, although some people say, is it a candidate basically because it's the region that's closest to Santiago and was the first to be established? Could be, could be not, but there's some very good bits of Maipo and there's some bits that maybe aren't so good. But let's see what we've got today. Does the first one say Maipo on? It doesn't actually say Maipo on, it just says General Chile. Valle Central. The other 4 are all Chile. But it is from Conchitoro and it's their famous Casillero del Diablo. So let's see how the 2010 vintage of that is looking. Well, it's a juicy, crunchy young wine. Licorice, berries, blackcurrant. Feels like it's got a bit of tar in there as well. And yes, it's how old will it be now? It'll be just over a year old, and it still feels like it's got quite. It's a pup. If I would have liked to have almost seen like the 2008 vintage of it, but it's so successful that it sells out, and so is the 2009 and on 2010. It's probably going to taste pretty good too. Lots of flesh, lots of flavour. It's this roasted flavours, these things, a bit of roasted berries, but also coffee and chocolate and things like that going on. Is there too much flavour there? I'm just wondering whether the style of Casillero del Diablo is slightly different from how it was about 10 years ago, whether it's actually a fuller-bodied wine. Maybe if there's something I miss about it, I miss the refreshing crunchiness that Chilean Cabernet Sauvignon used to have when the yields were quite a lot higher, the wines weren't as concentrated, and so you're getting more, richer, fuller flavoured wine now, but is it better? I'm not sure. Still pretty decent. Hey, let's try the next one. Marks & Spencer's Pirque Estate 2009. So we've got 2010, 2 2009s, 2 2008s. So we are in Maipo now. And this comes from the Harris de Pirque Estate, where they are into their horses. So this one's got, actually the Harris de Pirque winery is built in the shape of a horseshoe. And on the label here they've got a picture of an ancient carriage, a broom. Now, is it the year older, or is it the style, or is it the region? But certainly here, it doesn't feel like they've tried to make a full-bodied wine as the Casillero. It feels like it's going to be a bit softer. And Maipo has this, often you find in the wines, this mint, this eucalypt that can remind you of some Australian red wines. But the fruit flavours here, it's really much that berry, blackcurrant. Sometimes it can go over into this over-the-top blackcurrant pastel. Here it's just on the right side of that. Feels like it's going to be quite confident but fresh. Some of the freshness that maybe I was missing in the Casillero. Yes, and it's not as throaty as the Casillero, but it's all the better for it. There is this, there's a bit of the same tar-like character. There's some of the berries, certainly the blackcurrants. But there's, it just feels like a more laid-back, relaxed. It's not trying to get as in your face as the Casillero. Maybe the Casillero, a year older, would have been in a similar, more confident state like this. But it hasn't got the strut and swagger of the Casillero, but it's all the more drinkable for it. So yes, a step up for me that, and tasty wine. And it's got something quite exotic, almost like pomegranate, and tasty. Okay, now we are at Viña El Principal, and they make 3 wines. Top one's called El Principal, next one down is called Memorias, and this one is Calicanto. A blend of Cabernet Sauvignon with Carmenere, but still from Maipo. And these guys have some of the, I don't know what they still do, but at one point they did have the highest vineyards in the Maipo, and they were over 820, 850 metres above sea level, which for Maipo is high. Now this for me is what Carmenere does best. I don't know the proportions here. I imagine it's probably something like 80 Cabernet, 20 Carmenere, might be closer to 50-50, but certainly the smell here, it's got the black currants and the freshness and that little bit of mint stroke eucalypt of the Cabernet Sauvignon, but then it's got this more exotic, oriental spice type of character, and the going into the blueberry, boysenberry type of a fleshy fruit of Carmenere, and it's there as a component rather than as the dominant factor. As the dominant factor, I find it sometimes just a bit too loud, but I think they've done it well here. Yeah, juicy and vibrant. Has got some of those confection components. I was talking before about blackcurrant pastels, but it's not got them over the top. So there's a relaxed, almost herby feel to the fruit, and yeah, a savoury, almost Mediterranean-like herbiness flitting in and out, and then there's this mint as well, and the juiciness. I like both of those two, and amazing what a difference the Carmenere does to the wine. Okay, 2008 to finish, both from ancient name, Cuisine Macul, Antiguas Reservas. And I think once upon a time these guys were right on the outskirts of Santiago, but they, I think they were made an offer that they couldn't refuse for some of their real estate there, and they moved a bit further south. But they're still in Maipo. I think the wine is in a place called Buin. If I'm wrong, I will eat my cork. I'll eat a cork or something like. Oh, I'll tell you I've eaten a cork. Now this is a wine with a bit of history. It was one of the ones that perhaps put Chilean Cabernet on the map, and I don't know how many vintages they've done, but there are old bottles of Antiguas Reserva. So it made this impression, and then it really didn't move with the times. Lots of others got better than it, and I think in the last few years it's thought, oh, hang on, better do a bit of catch-up. So when I stick my nose in there, it's got a nice mix of it feels like it's going to be a quite structured wine. It feels like they've not gone over the top in getting the fruit ripe, but there is this juiciness, there's this life, and yes, there's the black currants, classic Chilean Cabernet black currants, but there's also cherries, spice, yeah, a bit of plum in there too. It smells like it's going to be good, and all the better for the 3 years. Rich, earthy, throaty, spicy, lovely punchy fruit, but not so loud that it's assaulting you. It's there, and it's quite forward, but it's being restrained by this structure around it and by all these other things. That spice comes through a bit more prominently. I don't know whether there's any American oak in here, but there's like certainly a touch of vanilla that I get, and yeah, nice mix of freshness, and just that the fruit is just losing some of its gawky young edges. Feels like a wine with a very promising future. Not in my glass, it hasn't. Let's try the last one. Santa Rita, Medalla Real, and I can't remember where this fits into the Santa Rita portfolio of Cabernet Sauvignons. Is it the second after, what's the top one called? Oh dear. Casillero, something like that. Yeah, it's a terrific Cabernet Sauvignon. I think this is the next step down. Well, this smells like a more backward version of the one before. It feels like it's going to have a bit more intensity. Power's the wrong word. It makes it sound like it's going to be a big wine. And what it is big flavours, but all reined in, all corseted in by this structure of tannin, juicy acidity. So you're getting these black currants, plums, touch of that mint, and same sort of herby character. But yeah, reined in at the moment. Feels like it's a wine where it's got a lot of its development to come, and it's been in oak for, I think it said 14 months, and there's still a touch of that toastiness and a bit of smokiness lurking in the background. Really nice wine there. I love that structure. It's got these, sometimes you get wines with tannin and it's almost like you have to chew through them in order to get to something vaguely pleasurable. Here, yes, it's got that presence. Yes, you can feel like a bit of that, what they call soft, ripe tannins, but they've not gone so soft and ripe that they're verging on the jammy, and the fruit's gone sort of and started shrivelling up and looking like someone who's been on the beach for the first 20 years of its life. It feels like it's got power, yes, power, but elegance. I mean, elegance is a word that people use a little bit too readily. But here, the fruit is there, and it has certainly got something to say, but it's not going to push you into and bludgeon you into hearing it. It's a wine that, well, it's 3 years old now. Feels like it's got 2 or 3 years still before it hits its peak, and it also feels like once it's got there, it's made in such a way that I wouldn't be surprised to see it going on for 5, maybe even another 10 years. Very tasty, and something silly like 11 or 12 quid, and I mean, just a readily available wine to stick away for 5 years. That's a prime candidate. But I've really enjoyed these, and yes, Carmenere is often touted as Chile's trump card, and Syrah is doing well, and Pinot Noir is doing well. But if I had to say one grape that Chile does as well as any, I think Cabernet Sauvignon is pretty well up there. See you soon.